So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Carmen Gonzalez. I'm part of the student development team at ESADE Careers. I've been working at ESADE for 4 years and a half now. Time really flies. You know, I've been working with the different programs within the business school, MSc, BBA, and MBA programs. I've been looking after consulting for quite a few years. So I've seen many students developing careers within the consulting industry, which have been very exciting for me. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, prior to ESADE, I worked for recruitment consultancy. I worked for Michael Page International here in Barcelona for 5 years as a recruitment manager, doing recruitment for several sectors, several type of positions. And prior to Michael Page, I lived in the UK, where I did a master's in human resource management, and I worked for the HR department of a law firm. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about myself, let's start the presentation. As you know, we are going to talk about consulting, a really exciting industry. An industry that offers many good opportunities to potential candidates, many good opportunities of growth, opportunities of exposing yourself to different type of industries, different type of projects. So a really diverse possibility for your career development. Does any of you have previous experience in consulting? No? Yeah? Tell us, Anna, so tell us a little bit about your experience. But you could feel the environment. And how was it?
Quick. Everyone was traveling all the time.
Yeah.
It was very open. Everyone had the desk in the same room. So everyone was discussing with everyone.
Yeah. Very much interactive and very dynamic. No, it's something that you know, happens across the industry in all consulting firms. It's a very dynamic environment. Very international environment as well. You know, I think you have a real global sense of the business. A lot of PowerPoint as well. This is a little joke actually about consulting. It's a little bit of 80s frame of mind. Consulting has changed a little bit, but you know, there is this joke about consultants that they do everything in PowerPoint. I think they even propose their husbands and wives in PowerPoint. Okay, so this is the agenda for today, what we are going to look at. So first of all, to look at consulting on a holistic view. So, you know, how consulting really offers the opportunity to work, as I said, in different industries and different type of projects. Also, a broader perspective about consulting in the sense of that consulting goes beyond working in strategy. Sometimes or often we see consulting mainly as strategy consulting, so working for companies like big names like BCG, Bain, McKinsey, but actually consulting goes beyond that, and there are different type of consulting firms that specialize in different sectors, different type of functional areas. So we'll look at a little bit at that as well. Also, the typical profile of a potential consultant. So what is it? What consulting firms look for in candidates? It's very important to know, because those are the competencies that you will be developing and strengthening to make sure that you're a successful candidate in consulting. And from ESADE Careers, we'll be helping you to develop those competencies. Also, the timeline, or how a year would look like at ESADE to prepare for consulting. And finally, to see also a little bit of how salaries look like in consulting and what are the potential earnings within the industry. Okay, any questions so far? Anything that is not in the agenda that you'd like to cover? Okay, good. Okay, so as I said, consulting really gives you the opportunity to experience different type of industries, different type of sectors, and I really think that's one of the most exciting aspects of the industry, especially for some of you that are really starting your career after the program. Consulting gives you the opportunity to experience different industries. Probably some of you are not very sure which industry in which industry you'd like to develop your career. So consulting gives you that opportunity of experience different things, and then you can decide afterwards in which industry you want to specialize. But consulting not only gives you the opportunity to work in different industries, also in different type of projects. You could be working on strategy, so you could be hired by one of your clients to develop a new strategy for a specific department, to reshape the strategy of the marketing department or the operations department. Or you could be working in other type of projects, working for operations or financial advisory, or IT even, working for IT implementation projects, depending on the type of consulting firm that you're working for. So that takes me to the next point, which is that consulting is not only about strategy, and there are different type of consulting firms. You can work also for consulting firms that specialize in operations, for instance, which is actually one of the main is a main trend within consulting operations, and there are many good opportunities within operations. There are consulting firms that specialize in operations, like A.T. Kearney, for instance, that is a very well-known consulting firm, and they don't only do operations, but they are very well known, are very well positioned for projects within operations. Or you could work for McKinsey, but work for their specialized division in operations that they have, and then you would only work on projects within operations. Or working for consulting firms that specialize in financial advisory or financial services in general, working in those type of projects, like working for Deloitte, for instance, that focus on financial services a lot. Or even working for in-house consulting firms or in-house divisions that support banks. Like, for instance, yesterday we had Deutsche Bank in-house consulting on campus, doing a corporate presentation and doing interviews with some students. And they are the internal division for Deutsche Bank. So all the projects that they do are for the same client, for Deutsche Bank. And that's really interesting because they, as an internal division, they have the opportunity to experience the entire phase of consulting. They don't only are there to suggest better ways of doing things, they are also there to see the implementation. They are able to follow up because they work there. So it's really interesting to see as well. Or working for consulting firms that specialize in IT, like Delta Partners, for instance, or human resources. So different possibilities within the sector. What's a typical profile of a candidate for consulting, apart from analytical skills that you see there? What would you say that consulting firms look for? What do you think they value, they need from a candidate? Yeah?
I would say they value communication skills.
Communication skills.
So, yeah.
That's very important. I mean, you're going to be communicating constantly. You're going to be communicating with your clients, defending your projects, explaining what have been your findings and what's your proposal for their business. So you need to communicate effectively. Good point. What else? What else do you think is important? Yeah? Thinking outside of the box, and that's increasingly important. You know, consulting firms really value candidates that have a creative frame of mind, that are able to look at business situations from a different perspective. So that creativity and that thinking outside of the box, as you said, is very important. Good point. What else?
The interpersonal skills are very important for consultants and the client and customer oriented.
Yeah, it's a people-oriented profession, right?
Exactly.
You're dealing with people all the time, so it's very important to have those interpersonal skills. What else? Yeah?
I would say what is also important is that you're flexible. So
yeah.
by means of working time and also the place where you live and where you work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not only that, but also being able to adapt different situations, different cultures even, because you're very often working on an international level, and you need to have this ability to adapt and being flexible. Very good point. Okay, so you've covered most of them. As you said, people orientation is very important. There's teamwork skills, leadership ability in the sense of, you're going to be dealing with projects that are very important, and you have to have this ability of moving forward and, being the driver of that project. So having that leadership ability is very important. Communication skills, entrepreneurial mindset, that's something that is becoming very important across the sectors, but especially for consulting. And what does entrepreneurial mindset mean? What do you think it means? It means that you're going to open your own business tomorrow? Yeah? No? What does it mean?
I guess it means that you have to have your own perspective, like giving your opinion based on your background and your culture and your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah? What else?
I would say entrepreneurial mindset means that you have to recognize opportunities and take advantage from them.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to work on your projects as if they were your own company. That mentality of really, going for it, to have this results-oriented mindset. So it's very important, that entrepreneurial spirit. In terms of background, obviously, previous experience in consulting helps, but it's not necessary. I mean, I would say that consulting is one of the more open industries, because since you're going to be working on different projects, different type of industries, there is not a specific profile that fits into consulting. It's more about the skills in the sense of analytical thinking. I mean, that's what recruiters from consulting firms really worry about. Your analytical skills, your business sense, your creativity, your teamwork, your communication skills. Those are the important aspects for consulting. And of course, you need to know how to reflect that on your CV. What have you done that shows that you have those teamwork and leadership skills? Have you been the captain of your football team, or have you been the leader of a student association, or have you, been behind an important project at your university? What have you done that shows that you have those skills that they look for? Obviously, academic excellence is important as well, but again, it's not only about being top of the class. If you're top of the class, that's going to help at least on the screening phase. But again, it's not only about that. It's about showing that you have that drive, that motivation, and that you have done things throughout your career so far that show that you're a potential good leader in the future. Okay. International exposure, that's very important. You're all here trying to expand your international exposure and experience. So you already have that mindset. That's really good. And that's very important for consulting because you're going to be working on a global basis. The cultural fit is very important and will help you to discover that as well, because there are different types of consulting firms. You need to find those for which you have a strong cultural fit, because it's there where you're really going to excel and develop. Motivation and energy. Consulting really looks for candidates that are energetic, enthusiastic, motivated. So that's very important as well, to have that drive. Resilience as well. Resilience in the sense that, no matter what, you're always going to keep trying. You're going to keep trying. If you fall, you're going to stand up. You're going to stand up all the time. They look for that type of profile. And also, someone that is mobile, because, you've got to be flexible. You've got to be adaptable, as we mentioned already. And, to be ready for constant change. That doesn't mean that you're going to move to Hong Kong tomorrow, but it means that, that there are changes and you need to adapt quickly to those changes. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay, so this is how a typical year looks like with ESADE careers at ESADE, specifically thinking of consulting. So consulting is an industry that recruits quite early on the academic year. It really depends on the region, because for some regions, recruitment is ongoing, so there's no a specific timeline for recruitment. But in general, the sooner you apply, the better, because then you will make sure that there are still plenty of opportunities for you. But again, depending on the region, that's something that we'll have to look case by case afterwards. But in general, it's important to be ready early on the academic year. So from September, you start working on your CV and cover letter, at least to have all the inputs and trainings from our side to make sure that you feel comfortable on how to write a powerful application for consulting. But then we are available throughout the year to review your applications whenever is needed, to make sure that you're tailoring your application in the best way to the firm that you're applying for, and that you're putting yourself forward in the best way in the application. We have a recruitment fair that is specific for consulting. So again, in October you'll have the opportunity to meet with different consulting firms, to have this broad view of consulting, and meet with different type of consulting firms, interact with different company representatives, and have a flavor of what the consulting firm has to offer for you, and then start deciding whether I need to speak louder? Okay. Whether consulting is for you, because some of you are still deciding, which is obviously absolutely normal. So that will give you the opportunity to have as many inputs as possible for the industry. We also have 2 career days during the academic year. The career day is a day with workshops to help you prepare for recruitment processes. It's a very practical day. We hold different workshops that are very hands-on, very practical, in which you're actually practicing interviews, practicing different aspects of the recruitment process, and receiving feedback from the ESADE Careers team. And in that day, specifically for consulting, there are workshops on business cases. For those of you that have some experience in consulting, an important part of the recruitment process in consulting is resolving business cases, which is something that you do during the interview. So it's very important to practice for that and to be as comfortable as possible with business case resolution. So we do specific workshops to practice that. And you have those 2 opportunities throughout the year, 2 those formal opportunities, but then you can book an appointment with career services throughout the year anytime. Also, you have the possibility to do mock interviews with us. Do you know what mock interviews are? No? It's a simulation of an interview. So you have the opportunity to practice an interview with us from Career Services. We all have previous experience in recruitment, so we are able to give you feedback on your performance during an interview. So before you have an interview, you can meet with us and practice your speech and your sales pitch, and make sure that you're aligning your experience with what the company is looking for and putting yourself forward in the best possible way. Okay. Better now? Okay, good. Sorry? Okay, good. So in general, we are there to support you throughout the entire academic year with your applications and with your interviews, to make sure that you feel as comfortable as possible and that you market yourself in the best possible way. Okay. This is a little bit of the journey with us in consulting. So 3 phases. First of all, the exploring phase. So when you start the program, you are considering different alternatives. Of course, you're thinking maybe consulting, maybe IBD, maybe something else in industry, healthcare, or FMCG. So many opportunities. So we help you with that exploring phase, specifically for consulting, to understand what type of consulting firms are out there, which ones could fit better with your previous experience and also with your motivation. And we start working on the application process to make sure that that's as polished as possible. Then we move to a second phase of actually helping you to prepare for the recruitment process. So doing mock interviews, specifically doing workshops on business case resolution, how to crack cases effectively when you're in an interview with a consulting firm, because that's a very important part, as I said, of the consulting recruitment process. Typically, the interviews for consulting are divided into 2 parts. There is the case resolution part, but also the behavioral part. So the part that is about talking about your CV. So we also help you with that part to make sure that you're explaining your professional history in the best possible way as well. And finally, the interaction with companies to attend company presentations, to get to know the possibilities within consulting, to meet with company representatives, and to start looking at what's out there for you. And also the definition of a plan B, which is important as well. It's important to have a very clear ideal plan in mind, but also a plan B just in case to work on it simultaneously. So we work with you also to discover that plan B as well, which plan B can be best for you. These are some of the companies that come on campus to recruit. Obviously big names like BCG, Bain, McKinsey, but as I said, the world of consulting doesn't end with big names. There are plenty of opportunities, plenty of types of consulting firms. So we try to bring a variety of consulting firms to give you that flavor of what consulting is. So different examples, consulting firms that specialize in IT, like Infosys, for instance, operations like Alpha Consulting, for instance. So, you know, a variety of types of consulting firms. Any questions so far? Yeah?
So you mentioned before that the recruitment by the consulting firms takes place very early in the year. Mm-hmm. And afterwards you mentioned the process, the 3 steps. How do you make sure that you have at least seen part of the process before the recruitment? Or
it depends on the region. I said that it's important to get ready early in the year because some companies recruit early, but it really depends on the region. For instance, for those of you that apply to Germany, most of consulting firms in Germany don't have a deadline. It's an ongoing process. So maybe you apply later on in the academic year. But we do all our trainings quite early in the academic year to make sure that you're ready just in case you apply early in the academic year. But even if you apply later, there are other opportunities of trainings afterwards as well. Am I answering the question?
Absolutely.
Okay,
thank you.
Good. Okay, so just to finish off, this is just some information about the average salary. Again, this is just an average salary. It really depends on the country. Again, for instance, you know, in Germany, we have salaries of 65,000 euros. So it really varies depending on the country. But this is the average for class 2014 because we're still closing the data for class 2015. So this is the data that we have at the moment. So it depends on the program. It depends on the country as well. But this is an average. Consulting in general really offers the opportunity to not only to advance in your career very quickly, but also to have you know, a good earnings because you work long hours, you expose yourself a lot. So the possibility of having a good salary is there, and it's important to take that into account as well.